All right, y'all. So, welcome back to TSP. I'm Dr. Evil Genius. That right there is not Captain Paul.
Captain Paul doesn't drive a virtual Mustang, man, and have geeks online. Oh, it's a fake car. No, it's not, man. I'm looking right at it. That's out my window, man.
Yeah, it's funny. We work together in a professional sense, and we're longtime friends.
Yeah.
And during one of our training sessions, you was like, "Hey, so have you heard about this thing with Chris Jericho?"
Yeah.
And of course, I saw that you uploaded a video on your channel. I'll put that link in the description down below, where you were talking about Chris Jericho being booed so loud that they had to raise his theme music to try to drown it out. What's going on with that?
Yeah, that was on the last episode of AEW Dynamite. He came out to help his partner Sammy Guevara after a loss to, or actually he beat Ricky Starks, Sammy Guevara. And Jericho came out because Guevara was teamed 2-on-1 with Starks' partner Big Bill. And Jericho came out, his theme music played. Everybody loves to sing Judas, his theme song from his band Fozzy. And they played the music all throughout what was like a 2.5 minute, 3 minute post-match attack. And it's like, well, they never did that before. So quickly, me and everybody else online were obviously in the know there. Like they played the theme music so they could drown out the boos. Because at World's End, their pay-per-view in December, I was there with my guy Andrew Baydala, and we were in attendance, and we heard loud chants of NDA, NDA, boos. People were singing the theme song because everybody's a mark. But after the singing stopped, the boos for Jericho pretty much were throughout his match at the pay-per-view, which conveniently featured Sting, and Sting was visibly upset at the fact that, he's on his retirement tour and Jericho is being booed, and by default, Sting is being booed. So it was, it's a whole mess. And it all started because Nick Hausman, a reporter or a journalist, if you want to call him that, went on his podcast and made some pretty crazy accusations about Chris Jericho. And he described Jericho as the Harvey Weinstein of pro wrestling, where he would basically sleep with all these women so that these women could get ahead. And all that story. I'm not going to dive into the rabbit hole there. You guys can figure out if you guys are familiar with Harvey Weinstein. But, Jericho came under fire because of accusations, getting physical with colleagues, girlfriends, and the wrestling world right now is just all over Jericho, trying to cancel Jericho with serious allegations of misconduct. The accusations are linked to his allegations towards female wrestler Kylie Ray, who was, at the start of AEW, one of their prominent females in 2019, and then she left with no reason behind it and never showed her face there again, and hasn't really done much in pro wrestling since 2019. So Hausman tweeted about NDAs because Jericho got into it with CM Punk's lawyer over the whole CM Punk situation where he was fired from AEW and nobody can talk about it. Jericho said, well, I didn't sign an NDA. Everybody in that situation signed an NDA. I didn't sign an NDA. I could talk about whatever the fuck I want, says Chris Jericho. And then CM Punk's lawyer says, no, you can't. All you have to do is read your AEW handbook or whatever the policies are, procedures and policies handbook. Jericho was just drunk and tweeting, which spawned Nick Hausman to tweet about NDAs. And he comes back saying, well, what about the NDAs you have all the female wrestlers sign? Blah, blah, blah. So Nick Hausman then goes on his podcast and makes these statements about Harvey Weinstein. And people are starting to pick up on this. Kylie Ray tweeted. She didn't really address the situation when Nick Hausman talked about the NDAs, but it kind of sparked a fire in the community. All Kylie Ray did was put an emoji. She put a heart emoji towards Nick Hausman's tweet in regards to Chris Jericho. No explanation, no description about what had happened. She didn't really go out there and say, yes, this happened, or no, it didn't happen. It was just a fucking heart emoji. Everybody ran with that as news. And then Nick Hausman,
emojis are news now.
And then Nick Hausman goes on his podcast saying that he, didn't backtrack. Everybody was like, oh, Nick Hausman now's backtracking. He's kind of retracting the statement. Nick Hausman says, no, I'm not backtracking. and then all of a sudden throws the one-liner out there. I don't have a professional, fondness or personal fondness of Chris Jericho. I'm like, oh, so you made it personal just because you have a gripe against him in real life, against the performer Chris Jericho or Chris Irvine, right? You don't like Chris Irvine, but you go on social media and tell everybody your public displeasure for the person behind the character. Come on, bro. I mean, that's the same shit that I was accused of when I got called out for the Roman Reigns thing. Everybody's like, oh, JD, you said that Roman faked his leukemia. I'm like, no, I never said that. I mean, you people can't discern what Joseph Anoa'i is and Roman Reigns is. Like, all I said was WWE, they embellished Roman Reigns' leukemia to a point to sell merchandise. And I don't like them going to that extent to kind of use his illness, his real life illness, to push a narrative on TV or get him over as a babyface because he wasn't getting over previously, or to sell merchandise, or to do this or to do that. People didn't really understand that. And then they made the same thing about Alexa Bliss, which we'll get into. But yeah, Jericho got, listen, it's not my point. It's not my business to sit here and tell you what Jericho should and should not do. But all I'll say is that if he's accused, there is no evidence. There's no evidence of anything. Tony Khan, the owner, the CEO of AEW, said, I'm not going to speak on unsourced rumors. And that's all it is. Is there an investigation going on? We don't know. None of my business. Is Tony Khan looking into it? We don't know. It's none of my business. Jericho now has to deal with the consequences of a heart emoji, which basically has ruined his current feud and current push on television, because now he's got to be on TV and everybody's booing him for reasons that even the general public doesn't even truly understand. So it sucks that he got lumped into this, and there's no real evidence. If there's real evidence, then we can say, Jericho's a scumbag, Jericho's this, Jericho should be canceled. But as of right now, there's nothing, and he's suffering for it. And Sammy Guevara is suffering for it too, because they just turned Sammy Guevara. If you're watching AEW television, they just turned Guevara from a heel to a babyface again to team him with Jericho to go after the AEW tag titles. And now Sammy Guevara's got to get booed as a babyface because nobody likes Chris Jericho. It's a fucking mess.
Yeah, so for those who are uninitiated, Chris Jericho is a legendary professional wrestler who got his start with WCW, moved on to WWE, where he became a Grand Slam champion. I'm not going to explain that to you. Go look it up. He is a legend in the wrestling space. In 2019, All Elite Wrestling became a new company to rival the company everybody knows in professional wrestling, which is WWE, which has their own hashtag problems. But Chris Jericho is a guy who has been at the top of the industry for a long time. He's also a touring metal musician with the band Fozzy. That's his band that JD alluded to a little bit earlier. And Chris Jericho is one of the, if I'm not mistaken, one of the founding members of All Elite Wrestling. Yep. And, he has a position of authority in the business. So the woman that JD was referring to with the heart, we're going to call her the heart emoji lady. The rumor is that there was something that happened inappropriate, like he came on to her and she didn't like it. And automatically these days, you're going to get the instant comparisons to Harvey Weinstein if you're in the workplace dealing with women. And let's just face it, it's not just simply you being attracted to her and expressing your attraction to the woman. It's also, to add on to that, her not being attracted to you or wanting to deal with you in an extracurricular manner, and you expressing your desire for something that goes beyond the professional realm.
Yeah, well, back in 2019, the whole gist of it is Jericho invited her to his hotel room, which she thought was a meeting involving several other people, and he made sexual advances towards her, which she rejected and left. Then she went to Tony Khan, who was afraid that Jericho would leave AEW since the company had just started, and Jericho was the biggest name. Without Jericho, there is no AEW really, and had an NDA prepped to keep everyone quiet. Kylie left not too long after that. That's the whole story. I mean,
right. And the thing is, guys, it is really important in this day and age that you guys understand that we are not living in the times of yesteryear where men were expected to pursue women. Men were expected to have some sort of stature, some sort of power to attract a woman and then make advances towards her. We don't live in those times anymore. In our modern era, it is looked down upon for a man that has a position of power within a corporate structure to then attempt to engage in extracurricular activities with a woman on the staff that people would deem as him having control over the direction of her career. And that it goes across the board. And we're seeing it in an environment that is considered to be a hyper masculine environment. I mean, we're talking about professional wrestling here.
Yeah.
And you are getting people that will look at a Chris Jericho and say, well, you invited a woman to your hotel room, you were attracted to her. It doesn't even appear that he continued to make advances on her. She left, according to the rumors. So it's not like he assaulted her or anything of that nature, but he is being, his public reputation is being destroyed in real time because he basically said, hey, I'm attracted to you, let's do something, and did not go beyond that. And I think that it is important, again, guys, you can't be doing this in the workplace anymore.
No.
It doesn't matter if you're her manager, she's your manager, you're on the same level. You guys are going to have to avoid these conversations with women that have no bearing on getting the actual work done.
Yeah, and you know better than anybody, like Jericho and the position of power that he holds within the company and throughout his career. He's one of the biggest names in the history of the business. You know, he can't be throwing his power around like that because of several different factors. Hey, I'm the biggest name here. Without me, this place isn't existing. Hey, I'm the biggest star here. I could get away and do whatever I want. You got to come to me, yada, yada, yada. I'm making the most money. Now, he used a lot of those aspects and his power to basically throw himself around in different areas. And he thought, you know, unwisely that would leak into the women's locker room. You know, a married man who has children, you know, hitting on Kylie Ray here, who was an upstart female in the company, thinking that he could get some extra, you know, signing bonus on the side. Yeah, it's not right. It's not right. And we look down upon that. It's not right for a position of power that he holds. He should be looked at as a locker room leader to help the young kids get to where they need to be and not use them for his own personal gain. Right. It's a terrible situation. And like Genius said, now he's labeled as something. And this is the world of pro wrestling. Like, now we all know that nefarious shit goes down almost in every locker room. Throughout the history of pro wrestling, it's just a dirty business. This is not something new. I mean, just look at Vince McMahon. He got away with it for years, which conveniently Jericho actually, you know, he was one of the few people that actually defended Vince McMahon in regards to this situation, which is a sickening aspect in its own right. But, you know, I digress. We're not here to talk about Vince. But
yeah, like, just put those two things together. And,
yeah.
I mean, do you do what you want with that information?
I mean, the history of pro wrestling is just a nefarious business. And something like this is not a new story. This has been happening for decades. But, you know, like Genius said, his reputation now is ruined when we have no evidence on anything but a tweet and an emoji. And now when Jericho goes out there, people are going to look at him for this and this only and not celebrate what he brings to the company, what he does for the company, what he does for the younger talents as an in-ring performer. They're not going to look at Chris Jericho for, you know, Chris Jericho, the pro wrestler, and it sucks because now he's got this vision or this image about him that is one thing, and fans are not going to let go of that at all, especially in 2024, and it's sad. And everybody that's around him now is also going to feel this disgust because they're associating themselves with Chris Jericho. It's just a vicious cycle.
Absolutely.
And that's the way people think about me when they still reference the Alexa Bliss thing.
Yeah, so go into that a little bit. I was going to ask you about that.
I've had people who are close to me that was with me, you know, during that entire situation. It was so big that I got picked up by the New York Post. And I was so distraught over the things that people were saying about me, all these things that were being said about me from people that don't know who I am. Like, I've known this guy for over 10 years now, and I see him 3 days a week working out in the gym. You know, I've had people call me saying, you know, that's not you, man. I'm like, I know. I made a Howard Stern-esque joke, which I have refrained from doing from the podcast for you know, since then, what's going on 4 years now. I don't make those types of crude jokes. I'm strictly content, what we see on television, storylines, wrestling, and that's it. And I add my own little dash of whatever I do.
He doesn't even want to talk about the legendary Pokemon Snorlax. He won't even talk about Snorlax.
No.
Who botches and hurts the performers that they get into the ring with. But
the thing is now, you know, no matter what I say, no matter what I do, people are going to automatically label me. I hate women. I hate women's wrestling. JD's a sexist, and that is not anywhere close to the truth, because you don't know me, and they base it off of one joke that I will never seem to kind of shake off, no matter where I go, no matter what I do. You know, I've had people reach out to House of Glory because of this same situation. Even now in 2024, JD's a sexist. JD's a racist. Why are you hiring somebody like that? Why are you allowing someone to work like that for your company? I'm like, I can't escape those situations. And, you know, it's just pro wrestling fans taking pro wrestling too far, and they don't really know me as a individual, as a human being. And it sucks. And that's what Jericho's going to have to go through right now until he's until he's convicted of something. And who knows if we're ever going to get to that point, you know?
Even if he's not, and this is the point of the video, you know, this is the point of this conversation. It really does not matter in our current social environment whether or not you actually did what you're accused of doing, which is why it's so important for you guys out there to avoid these situations entirely. You know, so I did like a little Google search, because I remember that there was a poll among male managers at some of the leading companies here in the United States, and they did a poll after the whole hashtag I as well. And I found this really funny article. Well, I found that the title of the article was funny. This woman writes an op-ed that says, "Dear sir, don't let hashtag I as well make you afraid of me." The survey by Lean In, which is a sexist organization that looks to advance women over men, because that's really what it is, and SurveyMonkey found that nearly half of male managers are uncomfortable participating in mentoring, working alone, or socializing together with women, and that the number of male managers who are uncomfortable mentoring women has more than tripled. Yeah. Now, there are a lot of people who are very critical of men who don't want to participate in traditional social banter and all of the things that you normally would find in an office prior to hashtag I as well. Prior to that whole scandal in 2017. But it's just not safe for you to be doing these things. Telling jokes, saying, things, oh, I think that this person did this to get this place, or any kind of jokes, any kind of, hey, you look good today. I really hate to be, the person to like really express the sentiment to you guys, but unfortunately those things have to stop. Not necessarily because you guys are wrong and you're looking to take advantage of people, or you're looking to harm women, or because you hate women or anything like this. It's because the environment has made it where the juice is not worth the squeeze, fellas. There is a whole lot more risk than there is reward when you get into any kind of exchange in the workplace that doesn't have to do 100% with the work.
It's scary, man. It's scary to be put in that situation, you know. That's why I have avoided doing anything on my end. You know, when you mentioned it, even when we're in the gym, you read people very well, you know, as good as anybody I know. And you see people, you see men, you know, we see the women that walk in there looking for attention. The guys don't even look in their direction. They don't.
Yep.
Who the fuck knows who's filming? Who knows who's going to have an attitude and say something off color? It's like they're just afraid. It's a scary situation to be put in. I don't want to be put in that situation ever again, honestly.
Yep. I mean, even it is funny that you mentioned my profession as a trainer. There are sometimes I watch women do stuff that are dangerous, but I'm much less likely to intervene on her behalf because I'm not trying to get hit with that tag. You know, if you look in a woman's direction, and I've got stories upon stories upon stories of women in the gym that are just thirsty for their I as well moment. But in the end, it doesn't really benefit them, and it doesn't benefit society at large because they lose opportunities. You can, look at any one of these polls when you're talking about men in leadership positions that are shying away from dealing with women in the workplace, which in the past era would facilitate those women moving up in these companies.
Yeah.
There are women that are looking to get gains in the gym that are not going to get them because some male trainers are going to be like, you know what? It's not worth, being called a creep because I approached her to offer my services.
Yeah.
But, we're not necessarily saying that Chris Jericho is in the right or in the wrong because we don't know what happened. But one of the things that you guys need to know and need to understand is that just off of rumor alone, not even really confirmed by the woman in question, your reputation can be destroyed.
Yeah. And
you can pay some pretty dire consequences. Obviously, we'll continue to look for news on the subject as more information becomes available. But we thought that it would be good to have this conversation with you guys, just to kind of let you guys know, is in the workplace, don't let anything come between you and your paycheck. Times are tough economically as it is. We don't need you guys out of a job because somebody misconstrued your intentions or didn't like a joke that that you told that they overheard.
Yeah.
So, Jay, we want to thank you for coming through here on TSP to grace us with your presence and to give us some of this news. If you are watching this video and you don't really know a whole lot about what's going on in the wrestling business, the link to the Chris Jericho story that is his off the script extra will be in the description down below. And when you click on that video, you can definitely go on and subscribe to the Off the Script podcast, JDfromNY 206.
Good shit, man. Thank you for having me. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the content here. And if you need anything else, obviously Genius and I will keep you updated on this story, but I doubt anything else is going to come out about it because it's been quiet since. So,
well, all right, y'all, stay safe out there in these streets, in these corporate streets. See you on the next one.
Take care, guys.